In this session, we are going to look at nutrition. We want to know what nutrition is and why it is actually very important. And we start with a scenario where you have a secondary school that is introducing a feeding program to improve students' health and performance. Can you state two nutrients that could be prioritized in such a program and give one reason for each? Then second point, or the second question is, can you explain the impact of poor nutrition on cognitive performance and immunity? Definitely in schools, the students or pupils need to eat food. Okay, so that food should contain necessary nutrients for them to be able to actively participate in their studies, in different projects, and also be able to do the work that requires their brain. So the work that requires their brain, that is what we call cognitive work, or you can basically say cognitive performance. So if, for example, a student is able to calculate, is able to memorize, able to remember, those are cognitive functions. And these are also related to the food that they actually eat. Okay, so that means that a school feeding program is actually very, very important. In addition to the fact that it promotes health. Okay, if you have a feeding program, it means that you're not going to have stunted children. That means that you don't want to have children who are not basically growing as they should be. And that's why this question is actually very important. And let's see what are the other concepts that we really need to know in relation to this question. So the first thing is the understanding what nutrition is. We talk about nutrition when we talk about the processes that organisms use to obtain and also use the food or nutrients for proper health. When we talk about proper health, we mean proper growth rate, the ability to fight against infections, the ability to repair worn out tissues, and also the ability to produce the energy required for carrying out different metabolic processes. So that means that nutrition is actually very, very vital. Okay, when it comes to specialists that study nutrition at a higher level, we say they become what we term as nutritionists or dietitians. And what this basically means is that these people have studied the relationship between um, the diet and health, and then also illness. So what you eat is your diet, and then what you eat influences your health. Okay, so you can either be healthy or you can fall sick because of what you eat. So that's where the illness comes in. So you can have people who get, for example, diabetes, hypertension, and other what we term as cardiovascular diseases or disorders. These are conditions that are related to what one eats. But of course, it is also related to what lifestyle activities the person is engaged in. If, for example, you don't live an active life, it will definitely mean that you are not exercising, and that means that you are not breaking down the calories that you have, and you are likely to become overweight or obese, and then that leads to diabetes, consequently hypertension, and other heart complications. So a nutritionist can be able to advise you on what to do and on what to eat, and if you already have these diseases, what to avoid and what to eat again, and what other lifestyle habits can you adapt. Okay. So when you eat the food that we eat should contain nutrients. And when you talk about nutrients, we're basically talking about the chemical components of food that are very essential for your life, but also health. That means that these nutrients are very important in providing you with the energy, in improving your immunity, in making sure that your tissues or your body actually grows, that is bodybuilding foods, and many other functions. So these nutrients include carbohydrates, lipids, proteins. These ones are usually needed in large amounts, so we term them as macronutrients. Okay, and then there are those that we need in smaller amounts. The vitamins, the mineral salts, these ones we term them as micronutrients. Okay, so we need them in smaller quantities, but they are still very, very essential. And if you lack sufficient amounts of these, you can still get health complications. So the food that we eat, when it contains a lot of nutrients, we can say that is that food is nutrient dense, and if it lacks nutrient, it is largely junk food with largely no serious nutritive value. Okay, so what foods do you eat and what nutritive value do they contain? That's a question that you can answer. When we look at whether our body can synthesize some of these nutrients from existing chemicals in the body, or we actually need to get these nutrients from the food that we eat. That is the categorization by origin. And therefore, we can say that some nutrients are essential when we get them from the diet that we take. And then we say they are non-essential when it is our body that makes them from the diet that we take. Okay, so that means that the body can make some nutrients that we need. But we can also have nutrients that we have to get from the diet and the body cannot make them. Okay, so for example, we can synthesize cholesterol. Okay, our body cells can synthesize cholesterol that we actually need. So we can say cholesterol is non-essential, and of course, cholesterol is one of the lipids that we shall look at when we look at lipids, and we see what importance is it. Perhaps you can check what foods actually contain cholesterol, because still we can get some cholesterol from some foods, but that doesn't mean that the body cannot so synthesize cholesterol. So our bodies require a balanced diet. When we talk about a balanced diet, we are talking about having a diet, the things that we eat, that is the diet. That diet should have adequate nutrients. That means that we should have what our bodies actually require, and that means that these nutrients actually need to be in the appropriate proportions. Okay, appropriate proportions. The meaning of that is that you don't want to have excesses or inadequacies of some of these nutrients. And if you have a balanced diet, then that means that your body is going to be healthy, you're going to be able to fight against diseases, and you'll not be malnourished, you'll not be undernourished, you'll not be overnourished. Okay? So a balanced diet does not necessarily mean that you always have to eat, for example, chicken, meat, and all those things. It basically means that you need to be concerned about getting all the nutrients that you want for your body. Okay. So if you have a balanced diet, like I said, you will not be affected by diseases anyhow, because your body will be able to fight against these infections. So that means that your body processes will be normal. So if you want to see a normal individual or a child who is growing normally because of being well fed, this child will not be visiting the hospital. You will not be taken to the hospital every now and then. That's one. Two, this child will be growing at the normal rate. This means that this child is not getting stunted or is not actually getting obese, because you can still have a young child who is becoming obese. Okay, so that person will have the normal weight or the ideal body weight. Okay, and of course, if you have, for example, an adult, if you get to feed on a balanced diet, it means that you reduce the risks of getting health complications like diabetes, hypertension, and other cardiovascular conditions. Marks the end of this presentation, and I think you can now relate to why it's actually very important to have a school feeding program. The children need to have good food such that they can grow healthy and avoid getting conditions that they would have otherwise avoided. But again, proper nutrition improves performance in schools.